Hello and welcome to this week's Rational Thinking. My name is George and I'll be taking you through last week's events. Last week we saw the reopening of Parliament after the Easter recess and we had mixed US data come out. Last week saw Parliament reopen after the brief Easter recess. As a result, we saw negotiations reopen between the government and the opposition party. Optimism did fade slightly that they can reach some kind of breakthrough, and as a result we did see the pound suffer slightly in the early part of the week. We also saw that there was rumour coming out that Theresa May might be looking at putting her vote towards the House for a fourth time, this time without a vote on the Irish backstop, to try and prove to Europe that the only thing between them and a deal is the issue of the Irish border. Outside of this, we also saw the continued march of the Brexit Party being headed up by Nigel Farage. Polls that have come out also indicated that it could be a bloodbath in local elections, especially with the Conservatives possibly losing up to 800 local councillors. Outside of this, in Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon announced the SNP plans to try and run for a second referendum on independence. Whether this will be passed, it still depends on whether Westminster will give permission, but it's still quite a big bit of news coming outside of the usual Brexit rumour mill. In the US this week, we saw inflation falter, which overshadowed strong first quarter GDP growth. GDP actually improved to 3.2% from a 2% estimate, but like I said, this was actually slightly overshadowed by the fact that the Fed's preferred gauge of inflation only increased 1.3% versus a 1.8% expectation. Outside of this, we also had the release of the US durable goods orders. That was a strong number. That came in at 2.7% versus compared to a 1.1% drop in February. And this is also the fastest pace of growth in 8 months in that section. This week is a very busy one in terms of currency markets. In sterling, on Thursday, we have the latest Bank of England meeting and the release of the minutes, where we expect the headline interest rate figure to be unchanged at 0.75%. In the Eurozone on Tuesday, we have the two GDP figures being released, both year-on-year, quarter-on-quarter. Year-on-year is expected to be 1.1%, and quarter-on-quarter is expected to be 0.3%. And then on Friday, we have the CPI release year-on-year, which is expected to increase from 1.4% to 1.6%. Then in the US, we have a particularly busy week. On Wednesday, we have the Federal Reserve meeting and the release of the minutes. We expect the headline interest rate figure to be unchanged at 2.5%. And on the same day, we have the release of the ISM manufacturing PMIs for April, which we expect to come in at 54.8% versus a previous of 55.3%. Then on Friday, to finish the week off, we've got 3 big releases. Firstly, we have the average hourly earnings release, which is expected to be 3.4% versus 3.2%. And then we have the key non-farm payroll release, which the previous number being 196,000. This number is expected to be 180,000. And then to finish off, we have the ISM non-manufacturing PMIs, which are expected to be 57.2 versus a previous of 56.1. Thank you for tuning in to this week's instalment of Rational Thinking. As ever, if you have any currency requirements that you'd like to discuss, please feel free to get in touch at any time and we'd be more than happy to help.